No, it's about cancer, and this is just my personal opinion. I've always tried to say to people, I don't see it as a fight because I think that the enemy would be too powerful to beat. The way I see it as a journey with an unwanted travel companion, one that I hope I will outlast eventually, and he will leave me alone and would just let me live the rest of my life and let me die of old age. So I think that is my approach. People can sort of think the same way or not, but I feel strongly about it.
It's tremendously sad, and not, in a sense, not unexpected, because we knew that the illness had really taken a turn for the worse. But he was such a lion. He was such a vital man that the idea of him not being there is extraordinary. So yeah, it's very sad, very sad.
And I wonder with you, James, if I can take a bit of a sort of a chronological look at his career and his life, and because he really burst onto the scene in those early years, the Italian youth setup and his time at Cremonese. Just how much of a an incredible prospect, a talent was he when he burst onto the scene?
Well, he was a huge star with the under-21s, as you say, with Cremonese, and the move to Sampdoria, which because Juve famously turned him down, they thought it was too expensive, and they subsequently rectified that error later. But he enjoyed those glorious years at Sampdoria in between with his great friend and a lifelong brother almost, Roberto Mancini. And certainly I went to Italy in '92, but before that, Vialli was already pretty much the biggest star in the Italian game, which at the time was kind of the pinnacle of world football. He was the biggest character, one of the greatest strikers, and one of the most interesting people that you could meet within football at the time, and I think ever since.
If you could expand on that for us, James. I mean, your show, Gazzetta Football Italia, was such and remains a cultural reference point for football, particularly in the 1990s. I can see you with a little wry smile there, James. Do you have any particular personal recollections or anything that went into some of those shows which involved Gianluca Vialli and the value he gave to the game and the world in terms of his character?
Yeah, I think what really, you were speaking to Athol still before, and you asked him what was different about Gianluca, and I think perspective was something that he had in almost infinite quantities. That he was, it's very easy to kind of think about any situation strictly within the box that it presents itself in, but he always seemed to take a step outside of any discussion, even his illness. I think that the words and the thinking and the things he's wrote about his illness in the last few years were some of them, I think, really, really helpful to a lot of people. But back in the day, when I was a young man attempting to interview famous Italian football players, he was one of the nicest people that I encountered. He was also one of the most interesting, because any question you asked him, you would get a genuine conversation. He would consider your question, and he would come up with something by way of a response that you would not have thought of, and that would enrich, I think, everyone's understanding of the situation that he was living in as a footballer in Serie A and as a person. He was also, a very playful guy. We've heard about how much he liked to laugh. He was regularly up for doing little skits, or I don't know, wearing a wig so he could pretend he wasn't Gianluca Vialli so that he could get away with not doing an interview with me, that kind of thing. He was a tremendous footballer. One of the most exciting talents that City had at those times. His bicycle kicks, his rovesciati, the overhead kicks, which were a trademark of his in the early 90s, were one of the things that really made, I think, Serie A so special. And then, as I say, the person that he was beyond the football was something really remarkable. Everybody will come out and say things when a great person dies about how wonderful they were, but he genuinely was the most interesting person that we spoke to, I think, throughout those years. There were some great people there and some real thinkers, but Gianluca was always special.
Of all the tributes that I've heard today, perhaps the one that's really struck me the most was Sampdoria's, James, where they mentioned not just the overhead kicks and the goals, but your cashmere shirts, your earring, your platinum blonde hair, your ultras bomber jacket. Was that the era, do you think, where he was really truly expressing himself? It seems like he was an open book, was he?
Particularly was run as a club where Mantovani, Paolo Mantovani, the owner, really wanted his stars, almost like his families. He felt they were, to to live the life they wanted to lead. And Vialli and Mancini were able, and the whole group of them. I mean, it was a famous group of players. They called themselves the Seven Dwarves. They were teammates. They were brothers on and off the field, and that's why this provincial side, I mean, kind of like a Southampton, if you will, was able to actually win the Italian title against the likes of Milan and Juve and Inter and all the other huge northern clubs. So it was a really special time, and he and Mancini together were the fulcrum of it, the figureheads of that. And his style, the blonde hair, the shaven head, as you say, the earrings, just the whole kind of Gianluca style was part of the whole charm of it, definitely.
Yeah, and just seeing shots of him again, and of course, you know, he wants to return, and he even dreamt of leading the Sampdoria project. Sadly, that opportunity was taken away from him so cruelly. But after Sampdoria, then came Juve, and of course the Champions League and more huge success. Overall, James, when you consider everything that he achieved in the 1990s, you were so close to it over there in Italy, and with Azzurri as well. Where does he sit in the pantheon of Italian greats?
I don't know what number you want to put on it, but he's one of the greatest Italian players ever, in terms of his character, in terms of his skill, in terms of his palmares, what he won, in terms of his ability to move from small club to big club to another country, to then win trophies as a player manager with Chelsea, to go on to become a manager full-fledged, to win the European Championships as part of Italy's setup. And I think a really key part of Italy's setup last summer, I think that there's nothing that, you know, to go on to be an author, to be such a human figure, there's nothing that he didn't do well. And within the realms of football and Italian football, certainly, I wouldn't put anyone above him.
Finished my contract with Juventus. I could have stayed in Italy and play for another club, but I just wanted to change. And I wanted to try English football. Really wanted to be here and be part of this wonderful atmosphere. I've been quite lucky during my career, because I played only for 4 clubs, and every time I managed to fall in love with the Chelsea fans. I had a fantastic relationship. We fell in love with each other, and then they were very supportive when I was sitting on the bench most of the time. They never stopped encouraging me, and when I became a manager, then the love and the passion went on. I think Chelsea fans were amazing every time we were playing away from home. I remember once we went to the Old Trafford and we beat them 2-1, and I happened to score sort of very close to where fans were sitting, and so I ran towards them, and they became even more, even louder, and it was a wonderful feeling. I mean, Italian fans are all about results. English fans are more about effort. They really want to see their players and the team to try very hard to get results. But if you do your best, if you really sort of sweat in the shirt, I think at the end of the match, whether you win or you lose, they will clap you and they will support you and they will just encourage you and tell you that the next game will be a better one. You feel like you want to really try hard for your fans, because your fans are loyal. And your fans, they understand you. You're basically an extension of the fans on the pitch. You're one of them wearing the shirt of the team you're playing for. Sportsmanship for me is all about playing by the rules. Taking part is the most important thing, but the essence, I think, is about giving your best shot. It's about winning and celebrating, but always remembering that in the
Hello guys, it's a sad news reached here on our desk that the former Italian and Chelsea striker Gianluca Vialli dies at the age of 58 in London hospital after long battle with pancreatic cancer, just 3 weeks after quitting his job as a coach for Italy. It's a sad breaking news, but more details are coming.